Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and Rivera and company are not playing about offensive linemen. This is just the very beginning, the tip of the iceberg, because we're definitely going heavy offensive line in the draft for sure, and we may even dip our toes into some free agency offensive linemen as well. It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and the Commanders have signed 6'9" offensive tackle Drew Himmelman again. Also, Ohio State offensive tackle Dawand Jones, the right tackle on that really good offensive line, the one that's kind of slept on because everybody pays attention to Paris Johnson Jr., is coming in for a top 30 visit. And what's really interesting about that, of course, we're going to dive into both of these guys, Drew Himmelman and Dawand Jones's strengths, weaknesses, their profiles, what we can expect out of them. For Drew Himmelman, do we expect him to even make the team? Does he have a chance? Why and why not? Dawand Jones, how much interest have the Commanders shown in him so far in the draft process? And also, what round would we have to take him if we really want to get him? But what's very interesting is that a lot of people comp him to Orlando Brown Jr. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up every Sunday for the call-in live show where I open up the phone lines and y'all call in. You're a part of the show. Ask whatever questions you may have, voice whatever opinions you may have, and of course stay tuned for all of the draft content, all of the free agency content, especially these upcoming days and weeks, and stay tuned for film sessions, mock drafts, everything. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so the Commanders are signing offensive lineman Drew Himmelman again. For those of y'all who may not exactly understand why again, we'll get there. But he is 6'9", 315 pounds. According to some people, he's 6'10". Either way, I went with the shortest measurement possible just to make sure there's a certain floor to his height. 6'9" is crazy in the NFL for any position. And then it's a little weird that he's 6'9", almost 6'10"-ish at 315 pounds. Like, you would think somebody that tall would be a little bit heavier than that. So he's a really interesting prospect. And just for a short timeline, he was picked up as an undrafted free agent for the Denver Broncos. He was his highest paid undrafted free agent 2 years ago, receiving a $25,000 signing bonus and $150,000 in guarantees. But he ended up spending most of the year on the Broncos practice squad. And then last year, the Denver Broncos ended up waiving him. And then the Washington Commanders, us, ended up signing him, but he only lasted on our roster for literally just a few days. We ended up releasing him May 18th after signing him just a couple of days before that. So he didn't even make it to training camp or anything like that. And even just beyond his NFL journey so far, and the fact that he's a 6'9", 315 pound offensive tackle, going all the way back to high school, he was a standout tight end. And he was supposed to play tight end going to Illinois State, but then he switched to tackle very early on, played left tackle for them for a couple of years. Then he won FCS All-American honors in 2019. And then because of COVID and a lot of people didn't get a chance to really watch him because Illinois State is in the FCS, he went undrafted in 2021. But this is a guy under normal circumstances. If it weren't for COVID and more people could have gotten more tape on him, gotten to see him in person, combines and things like that, pro days, maybe he would have went drafted in one of the later rounds. But again, since he's been in the NFL, he hasn't really done much, and it's been about 2 years now. This is him going on to his third year. And even though he was on the Denver Broncos roster a couple of games towards the end of his rookie season as an undrafted free agent, he has yet to play a single snap in the NFL, in a regular season game at least. And again, with him being a former tight end, especially like a standout tight end that was supposed to be pretty good, there's some athleticism to this guy. Somebody 6'9", 300, maybe you could say 25 pounds, 330. Guys like that usually can't move as well as he moves. So he's very athletic. I mean, his footwork and hips and everything are really good for a guy his size. His movement skills are very impressive, again, for a 6'10" type of guy. And then he's huge. Again, he has such a big frame, and if he really wanted to, he could probably add a lot more muscle and weight to his game. So one of his biggest weaknesses is his lack of strength at times. Sometimes he looks like he has a lot of strength in some of his plays, but generally he loses because of his lack of strength. He has great footwork. He's able to move very well. You can even ask him to pull. And then with his length, it's almost impossible for edge rushers to get their hands in his chest or on him at all if he doesn't want them to, but he's pretty inconsistent with that. But again, being 6'9" at 300, somewhere around between 315 325 pounds, that's pretty light for a guy that size, and there's a reason why he can get out muscled quite a bit and quite often. Also, a guy being that tall, you would expect him to have high center of gravity issues and not knowing how to stay as low as possible, which allows a lot of pass rushes to go just right under him, just dip right under him. All of that length, all of that athleticism and footwork doesn't matter if they just slide right up under your arms and your hands and just work their way around you with good bend. So sometimes he gets out muscled by the bigger edge rushers, and then he just gets slipped right under by the speedier, smaller guys as well. And even though his arms are long in general, they're kind of small for a guy at his size. So he's a really interesting prospect, and I'm really happy that we picked him up again, just basically off the streets for free. Just a ball of clay that we could potentially mold if we really want to take the time to get him to add some muscle. This could be a really interesting pickup for us again. I don't know why he didn't necessarily make the roster last year. He didn't even survive up until training camp, but I'm really intrigued by his potential. But there's definitely some stuff there to work with, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Or maybe he just ends up getting cut in a few weeks anyway. But we have signed him way earlier in the process this year around than last year, because again, we signed him in May last year, released him a couple of days later. We signed him in March this time. We'll see how long he lasts, and again, there's a chance he could end up reaching his potential and being good enough to make this 53-man roster. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter, but I at least want to see him make it to training camp, please. Then next up, the Commanders have a confirmed top 30 visit scheduled with Ohio State offensive tackle, specifically right tackle, Dawand Jones. He has visits with other teams as well, and I don't know exactly why I haven't heard about a lot of visits everywhere, and I'm pretty sure the Commanders have scheduled some visits with some prospects already, but those just haven't come out yet. For some reason, this is the only one we know for sure. And of course, as far as the Commanders go, we've already had a formal meeting with him at the Combine, and now he's coming in for a private visit. And it sounds exciting because it's like, okay, this is the first visit that we've heard of. Does that mean that this is the first and only visit that we have scheduled? Or does that mean this is literally only just the first one we heard of? Because when I hear, oh, the Commanders have a top 30 visit scheduled with Ohio State Dawand Jones, and that's the only one we know of so far, I'm like, okay, was this a priority? Was this the first guy that they really wanted to get their hands on and bring into, I'm assuming, Virginia, to Ashburn to talk to him face to face and things like that? I'm not sure if it's all that, but again, just like formal Combine meetings, scheduled visits are limited. You're only allowed to do a certain amount every offseason. So the fact that they're spending one on this guy lets you know that there's strong interest there for sure, like guaranteed interest. How much? We gotta see. What level? Time will tell. But as of we know right now, this guy's projected to go into the first round, especially according to the Draft Network's big board. They have him 26th overall out of all prospects, regardless of position. And again, we picked 16th overall. If we trade back, that may be a candidate right there, but I wouldn't take him 16th overall. I wouldn't take a right tackle, period, 16th overall. I would only take somebody that you at the very least see becoming a starting left tackle for you, even if it's not his rookie season. At some point in the near future, maybe within the first couple of years of his career, if you at least envision him becoming a starting left tackle for you, a franchise left tackle, then I see taking him at 16. But I personally would not take a starting right tackle 16th overall, especially with all of the cornerback and left tackle talent that's going to be available. I feel like one of those guys between Broderick Jones, Peter Skoronski, even though I kind of prefer him at guard, Paris Johnson Jr., his teammate that starts at left tackle, I feel like one of those guys may be available at 16. So I feel like 16 is kind of a reach for him. But again, the logic is, and the Commanders have shown that if they like a guy, there's no such thing as a reach for real. Because a lot of us felt like Jahan Dotson was a reach even at 16 after we traded back. But as good as he is, it feels like he's a steal. So what area a guy's projected to go? I mean, you could try to be strategic, but at the end of the day, if you love a prospect, take them and don't risk letting them go by. So if they love Dawand Jones, take him at 16. I have no argument against that. Me personally, though, I don't see him being worthy of a 16th overall pick. But let's get to him. First of all, let's talk about size again, because this guy's maybe only 1 inch shorter than the guy we were just talking about in Drew Himmelman. 6'8", but he's probably about 40 pounds heavier at 360 pounds, which is what I'm talking about. Drew Himmelman was kind of small for his size, but at the same time, Dawand Jones is a little big for his size. Well, he's just big, period. 6'8", 360 pounds is a huge human being, regardless of what's going on, who you're matched up against. And let's just go ahead and get it out the way. With a guy that size, of course he's a mauler in the run game. You can argue he's the best run blocking tackle in this draft class. Now, you got to work with a lot of issues with the guy that big. The same typical positives and negatives that come with a guy that size is pretty much who he is. He's going to be very strong. He's going to be dominant in the run game. And if he's able to do the right technique and get his hands on you in the passing game, you're not going anywhere. You're in his clutches. You're not going anywhere. You're stuck. That's it for that play. I mean, his grip strength, not letting you go, arm strength, leg strength, everything, anything power, he's got it. You don't have to worry about that at all. So if you really want to run the ball, this is a potential dominant right tackle run blocking type of guy. And if you move Samuel Cosmi to right guard, I mean, if you run it to the right side of our offensive line with those two, you should at the very least get 3 yards every play. That would be the best run blocking guard and tackle duo probably in the NFL right there. But of course, with just like Samuel Cosmi, Dawand Jones comes with a lot of pass rushing issues because, again, for a guy that size, people that size typically struggle with anything fast, anything where you got to change your direction, pass sets having to kick out quickly, anything footwork, hip wise, anything like lateral, twisting your body, adjusting the things. He's very limited in that way. Now, his footwork is a little bit better than you'd expect for a guy that size, but at the same time, when somebody's that big, you don't expect them to be ready to handle the fast guys around the edge. And there's a lot of times on tape that he struggles with the faster guys. So if we're talking about positive, the size and then the arm length as well is there. I mean, as far as like a physical build, he's everything you would want in the right tackle. And then his strength, I mean, so powerful. He's not letting you go when he grabs you. And then again, he has slightly better movement than a guy you would expect at his size. But at the same time, at the end of the day, when he's going against pass rushers, his footwork is not good enough. His movement skills are not good enough yet. There's some technique things that you can work on to kind of mask that, but he's kind of one of those guys that either wins big because he gets his hands on somebody and that's it for the play. He's just dominating you and manhandling you from there, or he loses big and gets beat quickly by some pass rusher that takes advantage of the fact that he can't move that well, being a guy that size. I know I keep saying it, but it's really true. Being 6'8", 360 pounds is hard to move. So if he ever has to redirect anyway, trying to kick his feet out, anything requiring him to move too much, he struggles. And again, you can work on some technique things to kind of mask that, but ultimately, you'll never be 100% sure about whether he can handle a speedy edge rusher like a Micah Parsons. A Micah Parsons, I'm afraid for Dawand Jones. Now, if it's like a slower guy that typically wins with strength, Dawand Jones is going to stonewall him probably almost every time. But when it comes to those quicker, bendy, explosive edge rushers off the edge, that's where my worry is with Dawand Jones. But again, if you have him at right tackle instead of left tackle, you could probably work with that and you can find ways to make up for that, maybe having a tight end next to him to help chip a little bit, to give him a little bit more time to kick step out to the edge rusher. And then again, once he has you in his hands, even Micah Parsons, if Dawand Jones gets his hands in his chest, Micah Parsons isn't going anywhere even. He just may need a little bit of help on that outside occasionally, depending on which edge rusher he's going against, especially the speedier guys. But all of this analysis is my opinion. So you watch this tape from Ohio State, see what you take from it. But from me, from what I've seen so far, those are his positives and negatives. Could be wrong, could be right. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, as always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name is scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Man, make sure you let me know how you feel about us signing Drew Himmelman again. How do you feel about Dawand Jones coming in for a top 30 visit? Is there for any chance you like him more than you like Paris Johnson Jr.? How do you feel about the comp for Dawand Jones being Orlando Brown Jr., who a lot of people want us to sign in free agency for big money, when you could just go ahead and draft them later in the first round? So let me know all of that, and of course, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.